Hey everyone, it's Joy here for HoneyBee Stamps. Today I am sharing a card using the new Lovely Layers Roses die set, and you guys, it is gorgeous. So here is that die set. I've already die cut all of my pieces from white cardstock and green cardstock. I'm actually going to keep this very simple, but I'm going to show you how you can customize your die cuts with Copic markers. So I wanted this rose to be very light. I didn't want it to read necessarily like a bright pink rose, but I did want to have a little bit of pink to it. So I am coming in with our 30 Copic marker right here, and this is the back layer. So I'm not going to color down so much at the bottom. I need it to be at the tips on the top, because when you lay that next layer over it, you're only going to see a certain amount of pieces. So as I'm coloring, you're going to see that I'm layering the next piece on top, because I want to make sure that I can see behind and make sure things are colored properly. So those first two background pieces I did in R30, and then I'm going to come in with R00 for the next two layers, because I want this to get lighter. So again, I'm just kind of flicking the colors at the top where you're actually going to see the cardstock. And as I work my way towards the front, then I will start coloring at the bottom. But these larger pieces really just kind of need it for the most part at the top. This one right here is at the bottom, and I'm just flicking up, adding just the tiniest bit of color and leaving some white. Now there is one more piece that I accidentally die cut from green cardstock and was like, wait a minute, this isn't a leaf, and I will bring that in and color a little bit later. So again, these two front pieces I'm just flicking from the bottom up, leaving the tips white. So it reads kind of a white rose with some pink. And isn't that gorgeous layered together? I love how that turned out. So now I'm just kind of looking at everything, and if I needed to add a little bit more color, that's what I'm coming in and doing, because I want to make sure everything looks and feels cohesive with the coloring. So again, I'm just going to line these back up, take a look at them, and I think I'm pretty good as far as the color goes. One more little bit here on that piece in the back. It was just a little bit too white. Now I'm good. Lining those right back up, double checking that everything is nice and colorful, but not too dark. But this is how you can make custom colors with your Copic markers. So now here is the little tiny rosebud, the four pieces that go together. This back piece, I'm going to use the darker R30. The front piece, I'm just going to flick a little bit at the bottom with the R00. And then these just kind of line up like that. You put them together really quick and you are good. Then for the greens, I've used G46 and YG17. I'm just kind of showing you here how things line up and lay down on each other. This gives these roses some nice dimension, but there's that little piece that I'm like, wait a minute, that's not a leaf, that is for the rose. So I die cut that from white cardstock, just doing a little bit of flicking of the R00 right at the center. Now our rose is complete. Okay, so let's get to the greenery. I am going to come in with G46, just do the same flicking motion, leaving color at the end. I don't want to cover up all of this colored cardstock. I just want to add to it, giving it some dimension. Then I'm going to come in with the YG17 and kind of go over that darker green color I just laid down, blending it out and going past it to add a little bit more green. Again, still leaving some of the green cardstock exposed. So I'm just going to do that to all of these leaves. I wanted these to have some dimension. This is not something you have to do though. You could just die cut from colored cardstock and it's just as beautiful. I just tend to like to add some dimension. So I'm going to finish up these leaves. We've got these little tiny pieces that I'm going to come in and do the same thing. Again, G46 and YG17. This is super quick and simple. And then we can get all of these pieces finished. Here's that little rosebud. And then I'm going to put this aside. And we are going to work on gluing these together. So I'm starting with the second piece, adding the glue to the back of that. And then just adhering these from kind of back to front. This is super simple. You'll kind of see how they're lined up. And I am kind of pulling them apart at the top just a little bit because I don't want them to feel so flat, even though it has dimension with so many layers. I just wanted those pieces to kind of lift and kind of bend how a rose would. You could also use tweezers, which I will use on the leaves, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. So I'm just adding the glue mainly to the bottom leaf part of the petals, and then just using my fingers to kind of pull them forward to give a little bit more of that 3D look. I'm going to finish doing that. And isn't that a beautiful, beautiful rose? I love these Lovely Layers dies from HoneyBee Stamps, are so gorgeous. Okay, let's glue this little rosebud together. Super simple. You glue the two pieces together, you glue it to your greenery, you add your little green piece right there onto the front. I'm using my reverse tweezers to help me put things in place. Doing the same thing for the larger stem, adding all of these little pieces together. And these really are super simple to put together. Also on HoneyBee's website, when you go and find this Lovely Layers Roses die, there is a guide in the pictures there so you can see how these go together. So it really is super, super simple. Now I'm going to take my tweezers, and at the very end of these little leaves, I'm just going to bend them up a little bit. Again, just giving it a little extra dimension. You do not have to do this. This is just something I like to do to make these feel a little bit more realistic. And now we've got a little bit of 3D dimension going on, and they look beautiful. Okay, for the background, I have a piece of white cardstock trimmed down a little bit smaller than A2 size. I'm coming in with some Salvaged Patina. Sorry, I forgot what it was called. Salvaged Patina and a blender brush. And I'm just adding it to the Quatrefoil stencil, the first stencil. There's two stencils, and I'm doing the larger one. And I just added that. I didn't want a full coverage, as you can see, but I just love this stencil. It's so gorgeous. I'm going to take the second stencil now, tape this in place, and I'm going to come in with some Distress Grit Paste and a spatula. I'm using this because, number one, I like the texture, and I also wanted it to be white. And I'm just going to add this to some of the areas through this second stencil in the Quatrefoil stencil background. That is a tongue twister. So I'm going to add just a little bit of this, peel it back. I'm going to go wash my stencil and my spatula, and then I can move on to the next part. And isn't that so pretty? Now this, I would say, takes about an hour to dry, and then you're good to go as far as putting your card together. I am using the Inside Kindness stamp set. I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says, "You're the reason I smiled today," on white cardstock. I'm prepping that with my powder tool using HoneyBee Stamps' new clear ink, clear and watermark ink. I'm going to stamp that twice. I just like to stamp things twice to really make sure I have a good image. And then I'm going to come in with some gold embossing powder. I'm going to sprinkle that on and then use my heat tool to heat that until it's nice and melted. Then I will use the coordinating die to die cut out the sentiment. I love that about HoneyBee Stamps, that their sentiments have coordinating dies. It is perfect. Run that through my die cut machine, and then we're going to put this card together. I have a piece of gold mirror cardstock adhered to my A2 size card base. Then I'm adhering that stenciled background to it. I'm being careful because I didn't wait quite an hour to put my card together, so it was still just a little bit wet. I am going to add some foam tape behind my rose because I do want this to have some more dimension. I want this to pop off of this background. And then I'm going to adhere this down a little bit on a diagonal. And then I will come in with that sentiment. I'm going to also add some foam tape behind that sentiment. But look at how gorgeous this rose is. I just think it is so, so pretty and so lifelike. I add a little bit of foam tape behind my sentiment. I'm going to adhere that down. And I almost forgot to add the little bud on my card. So I'm going to put that in place. And then this card is finished. And look at how stunning this is. I just am so happy with this, and I think the Lovely Layers dies are so gorgeous. It's definitely something you should have in your stash. I want to thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching, and I hope that you really enjoyed this project, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.